See if we are live. Have to seem to have the microphone going. Something odd happening with the sound. Okay, now it's better. VS is always playing up in Linux. That's not cool. Do I have the right microphone? Okay, that sounds him okay now. Let me just check the stream over here. Right, so it is there. We'll do Twitter quickly. Just in case someone wants to join in. We copied this already. We'll start in a sec. Post this. LinkedIn keeps suggesting me posting in other groups. I'll just take its word for it and do that. See how that goes. Can actually close LinkedIn. We have our OBS where I monitor the chat. So if you want to say hello, I should be able to see it. More importantly, if you want to check the site, give any feedback, here's a link as well. Okay, let's get to it. We're still working on this EEG review. It's a 16 channel. So this is what we have so far. So now group by side works well. So we have 8 channels on the left, 8 channels on the right. Sorry for that. Shouldn't be touching the microphone. Should have muted it before touching it. So that works fine. You see the different channels. I'm not sure if the colors, yeah, not great, but at least they are consistent. Because what's happening, the other thing is, yeah, when you, it's actually not very visible. Yeah, overlay all should overlay all, so the separation should be 0. It actually should be right. So when it's off, yeah, separation should be 4,000 or something. So they are all overlaid. Might actually get rid of that option. It's not, maybe it's not very useful. The other problem is that it's not very visible now, but anyway, when you load the page, it comes up as the colors as some sort of default values, which is not great. This is not what I want. I have that debugging thing going. Actually, probably can get rid of it with logging too much stuff. And before I noticed that when you resize, the colors will also flicker. Yeah, you can kind of see it. They flicker back to some sort of default values. before coming back to what we want them to be, which is these colors here. So to the test for it, the manual unit test is left of one and right of one should be the same color, and it's just happened to be that red. That's fine. We actually have a color scheme for the project, but we don't have 8 colors. We only have 4. We'll see if we can use it later or not, maybe. But yeah, there's more basic things that we want to sort out first. So let's see. So we did mention this to ChatGPT.
When I resize their window, the colors flicker between the set colors and some sort of default colors.
But I'm just trying to see. Yeah, what the delay is. Yeah, it's a bit of a delay. Can live with it. It's not too bad. It's like 5-10 seconds or so.
The color flickering issue when resizing the window might be due to the re-rendering of the plotly plot with default settings before applying the custom settings. To address this issue, you can try a few approaches. Debug the code to check if something is reinitializing the plot with default settings during the resize event. Utilize console.log statements or debugging tools to track the flow of execution during a resize event. Ensure that the colors are being set appropriately when the plot is resized. You can update the colors directly within the resize plot function to ensure they are set after every resize event. Implement debouncing to limit the number of times the resize event is fired. This can help to avoid unnecessary re-renderings. Ensure that colors are updated as part of the plotly update process to maintain consistency during the resize. Check if there are any CSS styles that might be affecting the colors during the resize. Ensure that no CSS is overriding the color settings of the plot lines. If you're updating the data dynamically, make sure that the color settings are being retained or reapplied when new data is loaded into the plot. Ensure to replace the *your colors array * comment with the actual colors you want to set for your plot lines. These steps should help in diagnosing and fixing the flickering issue. Adjust the examples as per the actual structure and requirements of your code. It appears you provided some CSS styles related to the overall layout and styling of the plot container and iframe. If the flickering color issue persists during the window resize, you might want to inspect how these styles are interacting with the JavaScript that updates the plot. Here are some additional tips to troubleshoot and address the color flickering issue. Ensure that the plot's update logic, including color settings, is not being interfered with by any CSS styles or other JS code during the resize. If the plotly plot is being displayed within an iframe, it might have its own styles and scripts that can cause the flickering. Inspect the content within the iframe to ensure consistent color settings. Though it seems the CSS provided is standard and shouldn't be the cause of the issue, it can be helpful to isolate the problem by temporarily removing or commenting out certain styles to observe any changes. Ensure that the JavaScript code related to color settings is executing in the correct order during a resize. You can use console.log statements to track the order of execution. Ensure that when the plot is updated, either through a resize or data update, the color settings are applied consistently.
Okay, just yeah, I might comment this out for a sec, see if it makes any difference. Something similar did help us before. In here. Did save it. Yeah, it's still loading with those colors. Don't see it flickering anymore. But the initial low so this helped with the colors flickering when resizing the window. However, it's still loading default colors the first time when loading the page instead of the colors in the color array. Right, so we need more troubleshooting. So at least now, yeah, it's not flickering
Colors are not being
when we
displayed
do
correctly
this.
when the page first loads, but are correct after resizing the window. It could be due to the JavaScript executing before the page is fully loaded or some other timing issue. It could also be an issue with how the plot is being initialized. Here are some steps to diagnose and fix this issue. Make sure that the JavaScript that sets the colors is executing after the DOM is fully loaded. This can be achieved by wrapping the JavaScript inside a window, onloader document, add event listener, DOM content loaded function. Review the part of your code where the plot is initialized. Make sure that the colors from the array are being set during the initialization. Sometimes using the plotly react method instead of plotly new plot can solve such issues as it is more efficient in updating plots. Use console.log to print out the color values being set during the initial load and compare them with the values after resizing. This can help pinpoint where the discrepancy is occurring. Ensure that the color array and the logic that assigns colors to the plot traces are correct and are being executed as expected. Here's a modification in your previous JavaScript code. Ensure that the colors array is accessible and being used correctly during the plot initialization. Always keep an eye on the browser console for any errors or warnings that can give clues on what might be going wrong. If all the above checks are okay, and you are still experiencing the issue, there might be something else in your complete code that is causing this behavior, and it would be helpful to review the entire code and check for any inconsistencies or overlooked errors.
Right, so some of the things we already tried before. Now we definitely don't need that because we're setting the colors outside the loop. So I'm not sure what's that all about. Trace line. Yeah, this is the same. Now it's suggesting using react method instead of new plot. Sound legit. Spot the whole thing. I think it doesn't have the updated code. And yes, we want more info on this.
Your approach to using plotly react instead of plotly new plot is appropriate, especially when dealing with real-time data or frequent updates to the plot. This method is more efficient and can provide smoother updates. Here's how you can change your code to use plotly react. If the issue of colors not being set correctly on the initial load still persists after making this change, you can try to manually update the colors immediately after the plot is created. It's not the most elegant solution, but it may serve as a workaround. It would also be worthwhile to inspect the initial data and layout that is being passed to the plotly plot. Ensure that the data contains the appropriate color information, and investigate if there are any overriding styles or settings within the layout or elsewhere in the code that might be affecting the initial color rendering. Use console.log data and console.log data layout to inspect these details. Make sure the color array and the color assignment logic are correct and being executed as expected. If the issue persists, ensure that there are no CSS or other style settings that might be affecting the plot's appearance. Also, check if there are any additional scripts or libraries that could potentially conflict with the plotly rendering.
Seem to be losing context because we just updated the CSS and we did give it to the bot to review, but I think it just ignored it or something. Yeah, it's ignored the CSS, the fact that we commented out some sections in it. But let's try this React, Plotly React instead of new plot thing. So now JavaScript, then data, JSON, data pass, that's just console logging, saving the original data. That's the same trace line, color index, color length. And we're already doing this somewhere. Right, so this is, I guess instead of that, I can do this. Let's try it out. I assume when you change the JavaScript, the code is being reloaded, not only when you change the Python code. And let's see F12. No, those errors are okay. Still having an issue with the offset. Why is it doing that? I don't know. Sources, static, JavaScript. Just make sure. And the code is updated, so about line 29. Right, so this is the new JavaScript that didn't help. Still working okay. This is working well. By the way, I have no idea why the separation value should have been 0 when overlaid. Yeah, we'll sort this one next. Still on the colors.
If the issue of colors not being set correctly on the initial load still persists after making this change, you can try to manually update the colors immediately after the plot is created. It's not the most elegant solution, but it may serve as a workaround.
Right. And then function. Already have that line, don't we? Why do we have it 4 times? This one is not being used. also do that. Function.
If the issue of colors not being set correctly on the initial load still persists after making this change, you can try to manually update the colors immediately after the plot is created. It's not the most elegant solution, but it may serve as a workaround.
Yeah, where do I insert the... I already have... Why is this constant? It's being declared multiple times. It doesn't have any, doesn't tell you any lines over there. The problem with using the integration, so when we do live share, it's behaving in a very different way. It's losing context. It can't read the whole code. So it has only limited capacity. So this one better in the sense that gives more context. Just using GPT-4, essentially, the default version. But then the integration is a bit funny. So I think it's suggesting, instead of this line alone, doing a whole lot, updating the plot with the current colors. Yes, this is manually. Manually update colors after plot initialization if needed. So get element by ID. Stack show plot if plot div and array has data, update the colors. So when rebooting this thing, no, the colors are still the same. Then they change. It doesn't happen very quickly as well. We have this, yeah, we don't really need to do that, this would be in the Python script doing this logging. Yeah, we don't have to do that, so it's much quicker now. Anyway, I'm kind of giving up on this one. See what
It would
else it
also be
says.
worthwhile to inspect the initial data and layout that is being passed to the plot. Ensure that the data contains the appropriate color information, and investigate if there are any overriding styles or settings within the layout or elsewhere in the code that might be affecting the initial color rendering. Use console.log data and console.log data layout to inspect these details. Make sure the color array and the color assignment logic are correct and being executed as expected.
Yeah, so that problem still remains. Once it's loaded, it's working okay. So hopefully it should soon be available on the site for you to play around with. That's working okay. Now that's default values. That's when the separation value can be used. Now grouped by site does this, and then this value shouldn't actually change anything, so it should be probably grayed out. And overlay all should overlay all, so they essentially should and let's put it in here so we can look at it once describing. Let's reload this page for a sec. Yeah, why is it doing that? Current separation value. What's up with offset? And why is it being run so many times? Just pop this in.
From the provided log messages, it appears that your application is logging the offset values correctly for each channel when initializing the plot. The offset values are being calculated and applied to separate the channels visually on the plot. The separation value of 2000 and the offsets for each channel are consistent and seem to be working as intended.
No, it is working. Okay, now I understand. It's for the offset for each channel, which is fine.
If there is an issue or something specific you're unsure about regarding these log messages or the behavior of your plot, could you please provide more details or clarify your question? If everything is working as expected and you just wanted to share the log messages, then it looks like your offset and separation calculations are behaving as intended from what I can tell.
Right, so that's working okay as well. It's gonna show me. So this one 0, 2000, this one 0, 4000. Yeah, it's a bit weird how it works. So offset. Yes, separation value of 0. So when we have off default, these are the offset values for each channel. Yeah, I'm a bit confused by it. This. No, wait. Yeah, if you can explain all that. Can you explain this code? And also, how do we make sure that when overlay all is selected, all the traces are overlaid one on top of the other? Do we change the offset number or the separation value?
This code is involved in updating the plot based on user interactions with the interface controls, like changing the overlay option or adjusting the separation value. Here's a breakdown of the important parts. This line checks if plot div is defined and if its data property is an array. This ensures that the plot and its data are ready and available for modification. It's creating a new array updated data by mapping over original data. For each trace in original data, it performs some calculations to create a corresponding element in the updated data array. A new trace object new trace is created as a copy of the current trace being iterated over. The offset is initially calculated by multiplying the index of the trace by the sep value. The offset is then adjusted based on the selected overlay option. If grouped is selected, an additional offset is added for traces with an index of 8 or higher. If overlay all is selected, the offset is set to 0 to overlay all traces. The y values of the trace are then adjusted based on the calculated offset. This is done by mapping over the y array and adding the offset to each value. Finally, the plot is updated with the adjusted y values. The code already handles the overlay all option by setting the offset to 0 for all traces. This should overlay all traces, as they will all have the same y values. The key part ensuring this is every trace's y values are adjusted by this offset, so setting it to 0 for every trace during overlay all ensures they are all overlaid on top of each other with no separation. If the traces are not overlaying correctly, you should check to ensure that this part of the code is being executed as expected when overlay all is selected. You can add additional console.log statements to log the offset and separation values and check if they are what you expect during overlay all.
Yeah, here's now a problem. I can't select the default 2000 on the separation value slider. Second problem is that grouping by side is working okay. However, overlay all seem to be going to the off option, which is default overlay option. Let's start with that first.
From your description, it seems like two issues need to be addressed. If you want the default value of the separation slider to be 2000, you should set the value attribute of the slider input element to 2000 in your HTML. This ensures that when the page loads, the slider is set at 2000 by default.
No,
If
that's
selecting
what we do.
overlay all seems to be leading to the default overlay option, it may be due to a bug in the JavaScript code handling this option. Make sure that when overlay all is selected, the offset for each trace is set to 0. Revisit this part of your code. Ensure that the overlay all case is being handled correctly. You might want to add some console.log statements to help diagnose the issue, e.g. Then, look at your browser's console to see what these values are when overlay all is selected.
Right, yeah, we need to do some logging because it's not actually taking that value. So I want to do it, yeah, here for overlay all. Why is it offset before adjustment? Should be before adjustment. So we're already taking offset after adjustment. Just call it offset after offset before. This one should go there. Oh, come on. This one goes in the beginning because that's before. Should be about here, is it? Data. How's this? Let's see. Did we close it by mistake? Control C. Let's run the Python code again. Mainly because we need this link. Don't know why it's running twice. Oh, it's loading forever. Ah, now I remember because we had it open in another window, didn't we? Yeah, I'll close this for a sec. Right, what were we checking? We need the console grouped by side, stopped working. What, why? Nothing works. Offset is not defined. That's 120. No, wait. It will be this 94. Yeah, I don't know how to fix it because I don't know Python. Let's see. Yeah, that's okay. Solutions. Yes, but didn't tell me where to. Right, update overlay. That's separation. Pop them in there. That separation. I think it should just go here. And update overlay as well. Let's start with 1. Just reload the page. The colors are wrong. Yeah, it's like refreshing the page. So that's off. Group by size. That's okay. Overlay all. That is 0. So offset value is 0, but offset value is 0, but they're not overlaid. That's separation. So doing it once in logging a select option and offset in update separation. We should also do it in update overlay, because that's still different to that. Set value. Still doing like 31. No, sorry, 26. Then minus 3000. Yeah, this is minus 11,000. This doesn't have an effect because we're setting it up. The offset value to is 0. Bum, 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 bum. separation value. We need these two lines in update overlay as well. That separation. Let's pop it in here. So now we doing it twice. To restart the page, I think. Set is not defined. Of course not. That separation. Trace. This one is not being read. Yeah, why am I doing this again here? I don't know. Let's get rid of it. Start that. Someone is playing this live stream in the background so they don't feel like coding alone in the room. LOL. Thanks for the company. Well, thank you for playing the video. I think it might be only distracting if you're actually trying to do something totally different, but good luck with your coding. Is it somehow relevant to this? Back to this thing. Did I reload the page? Yes. No, I didn't. Yeah, this colors changed to begin with. It's like reloading the page. I want to get prevented from doing that. So grouping by side still works okay. Overlay all. I get the offset value of 0. So that's fine. It's still separated by it's separated by 2000. No, 7000. The separation between the channels is still not 0. Seems like the separation value is being added on top of the offset value, which is correctly being 0. Can you explain what's going on?
Based on the logs you provided in the code snippet, it appears that the overlay all option is working correctly in terms of setting the offset to 0. This means all traces should be overlaid on one another. However, if there is still separation between the traces, it may be due to the separation value still being applied. Let's diagnose the issue. This calculates the offset based on the separation value slider in the trace index. This resets the offset to 0 if the overlay all option is selected. This applies the calculated offset to the y values of each trace. Even though the offset is set to 0 for overlay all, the y values of the traces are still being modified due to the multiplication by the trace index. We need to ensure that for the overlay all option, no additional values, like the separation value, are added to the y values. Check where the offset is applied to ensure it's only affecting the traces when needed. For the overlay all option, the y values should remain unmodified. Ensure that the entire offset, including the separation value, is set to 0 during the overlay all option. Modify the logic to something like this. Ensure the offset, including any added separation value, is completely neutralized during the overlay all option. Review the logic for applying the offset to the y values and confirm it's only happening when it should. Please adjust the code as per the provided example, test it again and monitor the console logs to understand if the offset is being applied as expected, and if not, where the issue lies.
The offset, let offset, don't know why I'm setting it so many times. It's the first time. Right, so this should be happening. So offset let offset should be 0 to begin with. Then if offset overlay all, no, that's wrong. Not equal overlay. What? If it's grouped. What's that? Why I can't just no. Can I just change separation value to be 0? Where's separation value being set? Changing separation. What's the difference between separation value and offset variables? Also, shouldn't I be adding more conditions like this one? Where for overlaid all, the separation value is 0.
Sep value, separation value, is the amount of vertical distance you want between two consecutive traces when they are displayed in a grouped or separated manner on the plot. It is determined by the value of a slider input on the interface, allowing the user to adjust the degree of separation between traces dynamically. Trace 1, no additional sep value. Trace 2, sep value *1. Trace 3, sep value *2. And so on. Offset is the actual value that is added to the y values of each trace to separate them visually on the plot. It is calculated based on the sep value in the index of the trace, and possibly other conditions depending on the selected viewing mode, e.g., group, overlay all. In group mode, offset equals sep value * trace index. In overlay all mode, offset equals 0. You're correct. For overlay all, you want all traces to have 0 separation between them, meaning each trace overlays directly on top of the others. This can be achieved by ensuring both the sep value and offset result in 0 additional spacing between traces when overlay all is selected. Here's how you might adjust the code. The sep value is initially fetched from the slider input. If overlay all is selected, sep value is set to 0, ensuring no separation between traces regardless of the slider's value. The offset is then calculated based on this potentially adjusted sep value. This ensures that, in overlay all mode, both sep value and offset are 0, resulting in all traces being plotted directly on top of one another. Make sure to test thoroughly to confirm the behavior is as desired in all viewing modes and scenarios.
We're doing this somewhere else already. Console. Fine. No. So I can, oops, get rid of it. See, we got only 3 minutes to go before we take a break. Yeah, this thing in the beginning is annoying that it's essentially reloading the page. So group by side still works. Overlay all. Still multiplying by. Is it multiplying by? It should be like a simple fix. Separation value is 0. That didn't help. So log. New trace y. Y plus offset. That looks legit. By the way, why in the separation value of 4000? So here's another good question. Why, when the overlay option is off, default value, the separation value of 0 makes the waveforms further separated apart than a separation value of 4000, which makes them more overlaid on one on top of the other.
It seems like there might be an inconsistency in how the offset or separation value is applied, or there could be an issue with how the Y values of the waveforms are initially set or updated. Initial loading with default value. When the page loads, depending on how the Y values are set or updated, a default separation value of 0 may not necessarily mean the waveforms are overlaid directly on top of each other. This could be influenced by the initial or default state of the waveform's Y values. Switching to a sep value of 4000. When you switch to a separation value of 4000, it might be reducing the apparent separation between waveforms because of the relative difference in the Y values or the scale of the plot. Here's a troubleshooting step you can take. Add console logs to print out the Y values of the traces at different steps to understand how they are being modified. For instance, in the update separation function, log the Y values before and after they are adjusted by the offset. This way, you can observe how the Y values are changing in different scenarios and can identify if there's an unexpected behavior or inconsistency. Scale of Y-axis. Check if the Y-axis scale is auto-adjusting. If it is, the visual separation between waveforms might look different even if the offset separation value is consistent. You may need to fix the scale or adjust it manually. Initial Y values. Verify if the initial Y values of the waveforms are consistent. There might be an unintentional offset applied initially. Offset application. Ensure that the offset is being applied consistently in all scenarios. There might be a condition where the offset is not being applied or is being applied multiple times. Default values. Make sure the default values for offset and separation are set as intended when the off option is selected. You might need to add a condition to handle this specific case. Remember to consider the scale and range of the Y values and the plot's Y-axis, as they will impact how separated or overlaid the waveforms appear on the plot. Adjust the code accordingly based on your observations from the debug logs.
Right, so it looks like the things adjusted based on the
From the logs you provided, I can make some observations. The sep value is 2000, which means every next plot is shifted down by 2000 units from the previous one. The offset is increasing by 2000 each time, so the actual value of the traces is being adjusted accordingly. For example, the first trace is not adjusted, offset is 0, the second trace is adjusted by 2000, the third by 4000, and so on. This is expected behavior if you want each plot to be visually separated by a fixed amount when the option is off. The sep value is 0, meaning there should be no separation between plots, they should all overlay exactly. The offset is also 0, confirming that no separation is being added between plots. However, the Y values of the plots still differ, causing them to appear separated on the graph. These values likely represent the actual DAT values, showing different EG readings. Sep value. It is the user-defined or default separation value. It determines how much space or separation should be there between two consecutive plots. When the Overlay All option is selected, it makes sense for sep value to be 0 to have all plots overlaying each other. Offset. It is a cumulative value used to separate the plots. In the case of the off option, it increases with each plot to push it down relative to the previous one. For the Overlay All option, it remains 0 to keep all plots at the same level. Overlay All option not overlaying all plots, even though the sep value and offset are 0, the plots are not overlaying exactly because their original Y values, DAT values, are different. One approach to make them overlay exactly is to normalize or standardize the y values so that they all have a similar range or mean. This, however, would mean you are altering the actual data values for visual purposes. Adjusting the code. If you want the overlay all option to overlay all plots exactly, irrespective of their data values, you could adjust the y values so that they all start from the same base value or have the same mean. However, if you want to preserve the actual data values, they will appear separated even with a step value and offset of 0, because the data values themselves are different. You may need additional conditions to handle specific scenarios or options, but ensure you are clear on the expected behavior for each option. Data values influencing separation. The apparent separation or overlay of plots is also influenced by the actual data values. Even with a separation value and offset of 0, plots can appear separated if their data values are different. Please adjust your approach based on what you want to achieve visually while considering the integrity of the data values.
So yeah, we definitely want the plots to have the same y value, so they should be normalized around 0. So do we need to change the original y values? Don't remember changing it to begin with.
Yes, if you want all plots to overlay precisely when the Overlay All option is selected, you'll need to normalize or standardize the original y values of the traces. This means adjusting the data so that they all have the same mean and possibly the same standard deviation. Normalization typically involves scaling the data to fall within a small, specified range. One common method is to scale between 0 and 1. The formula for normalization is: here, value is the original value, min is the minimum value in the dataset, and max is the maximum value. Standardization involves converting the data to have a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. This process allows different datasets to be compared on the same scale. The formula for standardization is: in your case, you should focus on the part of your code where the y values of the traces are updated based on the selected option. You'll add a case or condition for the Overlay All option to normalize or standardize the y values. Here's a rough idea. In this code snippet, when the Overlay All option is selected, it calculates the mean and standard deviation of the y values and then uses them to standardize each y value. This ensures that all plots have the same mean and standard deviation, making them overlay perfectly. Adjust this as per your requirement and ensure you test thoroughly to validate the output.
The original data, as it's being loaded, should just have the same y value for same range, so normalized roughly for each channel. Where in the code are we changing the y values to be offset from one another?
In the provided code, the y values are being adjusted in the update separation function. In this part of the code, here's what's happening. It is creating a copy of each trace from the original data. Depending on the selected option, it's calculating an offset value to separate or overlay the traces. It is then adjusting each y value in the trace by adding the calculated offset. Plotly, update is then called with the updated y values to redraw the plot. If you want to normalize the y values of the traces from the beginning, you should do it right after fetching the data and before initializing the plot. Here's a modification of your original code to normalize each trace's y values to have a mean of 0. In this adjusted code, before setting the color of each trace, it calculates the mean of the y values and then adjusts each y value by subtracting the mean, effectively centering the y values around 0 for each trace. Remember to adapt and test the code as per your specific needs and dataset.
This update separation thing. Why is that? It checks sources, static, JavaScript. Line was at 88. Yes, separation value is 0. Can this be 0 to begin with? Let's have to sort this out. So now this should be interior all overlaid. There's something changing. The value is 84 is 0. Current separation value. Why is this not being this function is not being called? Update separation. Okay, might take what's going on? Super weird. That separation function. It's being called there. Can we rewrite the code so we do not have separation between the channels? So they are plotted overlaid by default.
Certainly. You can have the EEG traces overlaid by default by setting the offset to 0 and not changing it regardless of the selected option. Here's the revised code with comments indicating the changes. In this revised version, the sep value is not being changed based on the selected option. It is effectively always 0. I removed the part where it adjusts the step value based on the selected option. The offset is always set to 0 so that all traces are overlaid. This way, by default, all channels will be plotted overlaid on one another. Make sure to adapt the other parts of your code and UI to make it intuitive for users, as the separation slider and overlay options may not have an effect with these changes. Also, this modification assumes that you have normalized the Y values of the traces around 0 as previously described to prevent the traces from being plotted too far apart vertically.
Right, this bit. I don't think they need to be normal. I think they're like normalized to begin with. Standardized 0 offset. We don't have offset. And no overlay. This will be happening for each channel? No. There's something happening to begin with because the originated data should not have this offset in it. I think we somehow by mistake hardwired it into the data itself, into the Y values. And that's unfortunate because we don't have to do it. Fetch data. Are we doing it in? Scaling offset. Right. Offset step. Can I just remove that? Create plot figure. Can you explain offset step?
In this code, offset_step is used to calculate the range, the difference between maximum and minimum values, of the data in each channel to visually separate the channels when plotting them. Here's how it works, step by step. df.max. This code finds the maximum value across all columns in the data frame df. The first .max returns a series containing the maximum value of each column, and the second .max returns the maximum value from this series, which is the highest value in the entire data frame. df.min. Similar to above, this code finds the minimum value across all columns in the data frame. The first .min returns a series containing the minimum value of each column, and the second .min returns the minimum value from this series, which is the lowest value in the entire data frame. Offset_step equals df.max, df.min. This code calculates the difference between the highest and lowest values in the data frame, giving the overall range of the data. For I in reversed, range, df, shape, 1, df, I, equals I asterisk offset_step. In this loop, each channel in the data frame, excluding the newly added time column later in the code, is offset vertically by multiplying the offset_step by the index of the channel. This is done to separate the channels visually when plotting them. Each channel is pushed down by an additional offset_step compared to the previous channel. In summary, offset_step is used to calculate the distance needed to separate each channel plot vertically to avoid overlap, making the visualization more readable and interpretable. The offset_step ensures that the Y values of each channel are modified such that each channel's plot is displayed separately, without overlapping with others. This separation is purely for visual clarity in the plot and does not affect the raw data.
Right, I guess we removed that bit. Right, now it's working. Okay, so it's kept looking at the JavaScript where the problem was in the Python code. So we have separation of, right, and this thing should now 0 should be 0. Okay, now this, so we removed this code. Commenting out this code solved the problem. Now back to the JavaScript. So now grouped by side is working well. Overlay all is working well. However, the off default condition should have a default separation in which case the separation value should be controlling how much separation there is. Later we want to add an automated separation where we'll be looking at mean and max and separating by the exact amount so the channels, the waveforms are not overlaid.
It looks like you have solved the issue by commenting out the code that was creating an offset between the channels, allowing them to overlay each other properly when required. Now, regarding the off condition and default separation. You can implement this by adding another condition in the update separation function in your JavaScript code to handle the off case. When the off option is selected, you can set the separation value to a default or user-defined value to separate the waveforms. Here's an updated version of the update separation function. This function calculates the separation between the traces based on the selected overlay option and the separation value slider's current value. It then updates the plot with the new Y values calculated based on the separation and overlay options. As for automatically calculating the separation based on the min and max values of the waveforms, you can calculate the range of each waveform and set the offset to ensure they do not overlap. You would do this in the same update separation function, adding another condition for this automatic separation. You may need to adjust the Y values based on the min and max values of each waveform and the desired gap between them.
Right, so to bring it back to essentially what it was. So we have a grouped overlay all, that's working fine. Now with off condition, which is the default here. Wait a sec. Separation value. This separation value here. Why?
You can implement this by adding another condition in the update separation function in your JavaScript code to handle the off case. When the off option is selected, you can set the separation value to a default or user-defined value to separate the waveforms.
Yes, where is it? It's not separation grouped. Date separation, separation value. I need to bring this. Let's see. To reload the page. Yeah, those default colors are still there. Then it's group side by side, overlay all. It's working okay. This value should not make a difference. Same here. Right. So they're off default. Okay, it's working. Better. Didn't say it. It's not perfect. Yeah, this is still annoying. Okay, this is the default option separated by 2000. Then we can change the separation value. Yeah, and 2000 is just a magic number. It should work better for a. It should be automatically selected actually for different waveforms. So it will. Yeah, but you can manually select that. A group by side. This value doesn't work. It says 0 there, so that's okay. Don't know why this value should also say 0. Separation value. So grouped. Separation value. This separation value should be. Oops. And separation value should be 0 there as well. Yeah, we really need to sort out the time the page is loading for. It's just ridiculously long, and the fact that yeah, it essentially does this funny business of yeah, I don't even know how to explain it. If I knew how to explain it, the ChatGPT probably would be able to fix it as well. Group side by side, overlay all. Why is this 2000? I don't know. Yes, so essentially overlay all is the same as default option with separation of 0. It's a good number for this. Yeah, 2000 is fine. And yes, later we wanna automate have another option where the separation is automated. So it will just separate by the exact amount needed. Okay, it's working better now. In off condition, the separation value is 2000, and group by side and overlay all working okay. The separation value is not being taken into effect, but seems like for group by side the separation value display is being updated to 0. However, for overlay all, the separation value displayed on screen is whatever was set prior, which is not correct.
It seems like you would like to update the separation value display depending on the selected option, especially when the overlay all option is selected, the separation value displayed should be 0. You can achieve this by moving the display update code inside the condition that checks the selected option. Here's an adjusted version of the update separation function. This update ensures that the separation value displayed is 0 when the overlay all option is selected and is updated correctly for other options as well. Make sure that the sep value input element is not disabled when the off option is selected to allow users to adjust the separation value in that mode. Also, you can add similar conditions to ensure that the sep value input element is disabled when it should not be adjustable, like in overlay all and group modes.
What was the last bit?
Also, you can add similar conditions to ensure that the sep value input element is disabled when it should not be adjustable, like in overlay all and group modes.
That's a good idea.
To disable the separation value slider when the overlay all or group options are selected, you need to update the update overlay and update separation functions to disable or enable the slider based on the selected option. You can manipulate the disabled property of the slider input element to achieve this. Here's the updated JavaScript code. Here's what has been changed, added. In the update overlay function, get the separation value slider element and disable it when either overlay all or group is selected. In the update separation function, set the separation value, sep value, to 0 when overlay all is selected. With these changes, the separation value slider will be disabled when it should not be adjustable, and the separation value will automatically set to the appropriate value based on the selected overlay option.
Thank you for subscribing to the channel. By the way, I'm more than happy to share all the analytics and stuff. It's what we had the last 28 days, almost 1,000 views, which is great. Yeah, I had this one video that did really well. This one here. It's dying off now. So this is more of a organic thing. Yeah, that's a lot of hours overall watched. You can tell it's not the one that the algorithm just started promoting. It's one that people were supposedly searching for themselves. But yes, this is my typical view count, and this is what this video have done. This is great. This is probably the best performing so far. It's only 4 days. Yeah, but now it's dying off. So I don't know exactly how that works. Also importantly, there's like no subscribers out of this video, so it's probably not directly related to the content I do. Yeah, this finding these two deeps. Average percentage viewed is 20%, which is quite a bit. Average view duration, so it's only 4.5 minute long. Yeah, that average view duration is fine. So yes, people are dropping off in the beginning, but yeah, only 10%, 7%. Average percentage viewed 20%, and to the end only reached 7% of views. Yeah, so they're dropping off quite drastically in the beginning. I don't know why. Yeah, probably have to make shorter videos. I actually try to automate the. So essentially, what I'm recording in live is live, is real. It's me. It's real time, not real time. You know what I mean? Like a soccer game where there is a delay. Like live game is not really live, but whatever. That's a negligible delay. And what I was saying. Anyway, we had this quite a lot of views. That's what my channel was doing the last year. And yeah, that's that video that got 150 views in one day there on Saturday. Which I normally don't get any views on Saturday, but this one did. Maybe I uploaded it on Saturday. I don't know. I have to have a look. So yeah, almost 400, not almost, exactly 466, 67 watch hours. You can see it there. I don't know what the analytics is actually not showing. It's showing you videos published like in that week. I mean, it's a annual view, so I think it's missing. Yeah, definitely missing stuff from here. This is where I actually started uploading videos. About January. That's the trajectory. Top content, so on and so forth. Yeah, let me know if you want more details on this. We were also using this Tammy. Yeah, there's a couple of those that summarize the video and give you this description bits. They're not great. I haven't actually checked them. It's still better than me writing it because, well, first, it's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna write it. Yes, we want to use AI for that. So say this video here, and let's see if we can pop it into the Tammy AI. It's a silly name that doesn't mean anything. Okay, whatever. It's loading the video. 10, 20 seconds. Right, and got this description, which I don't want to read. I want to copy text. So it's this one here. So if I edit video, yeah, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. Now in edit video, can place that. Yeah, recap by Tammy AI. Doesn't have a title or anything. Basic summary. I don't know what all that is. Pro summary. One premium. Okay, whatever. It's doing like premium. I'm not paying for this. Right. Copy. Include. So it limits how many credits you have. So include overview. Include timestamps. Copy text. So this should actually add the we already had the title. Just repeating the title. So we don't need that. Yeah, it always gets, if I say bindingchaos.com, it always gets it wrong. So I have to always manually correct it. This time it doesn't have it, so that's okay. So in the video now, yeah, this time steps should work. So they're working okay. Yeah, so you know it's generated by AI. So if there's mistakes and things, don't blame me. And yes, more than that, I will be also creating a automation of the video. It's called editing. So actually using Python to automate video editing. I'll be doing it later. So I don't know. Let me know. Is this ready? This tool for you to be able to access it. I need to make it available on this page, and I forgot how to do it. Hopefully again we can get GPT to help us. Okay, the tool is working more or less okay. How do I edit this? The Flask application. I already have 2 or 3 Flask applications deployed on an existing server, Apache server. Let's see what it says.
If you want to deploy another Flask application on a server where you already have Apache serving other Flask apps, you would follow similar steps but create a new virtual host configuration for the new app. Here are the steps tailored for adding an additional Flask app. If you haven't already, create a new directory for your new Flask application and add your Python files, templates, and static files as needed. In your Flask app directory, set up a new Python virtual environment and install your required packages. This keeps the dependencies for your apps separate from each other. Create a new WSGI file for your application. This will be used by Apache to serve your app. Replace My New App with the name of your Python file containing your Flask app instance. Create a new virtual host configuration file for Apache. This will tell Apache how to handle requests for your new domain or subdomain. Add the following configuration, adjusting paths and domain names as needed. Replace mynewapp.example.com with your domain or subdomain, and adjust the paths to point to your new Flask apps directory and WSGI file. Enable the new site configuration and reload Apache to apply the changes. Update your DNS records to point your new domain or subdomain to your server's IP address. Once DNS has propagated, you should be able to access your new Flask app at your domain or subdomain. Remember to replace placeholders like path to your new app, my new app, and my new app.example.com with your actual paths, app name, and domain names. Adjust your Apache and WSGI configurations as needed to match your specific setup and requirements.
So I don't have any messages in the chat. We might just start again in a bit. Just take a break and hopefully deploy this application by the end of today. Never promise anything, but yeah. See you in a bit.